This is our video for our VPP Lesson 4 vocabulary word. Our first word is denizen. Fierce and beautiful, the blue shark reigns as a powerful denizen of the deep. Our part of speech for this word is noun. It's a thing. And it's kind of hard to figure out what it means from this context. Because we're using a shark in the sentence, some of you guys might be thinking, well, denizen means, a predator or some kind of fierce animal. That's not actually what it means. So let me go ahead and give you the definition. It's an occupant or an inhabitant. A synonym would be resident. So in this sentence, it's explaining to us that the blue shark lives in the deep ocean. Okay, it's a denizen, a resident of the deep, of the ocean. An immigrant or alien would be opposites. So I'm using this picture here of South Carolina to help us remember what denizen means, because if you are a student at Southside Christian School, then obviously you are a denizen of South Carolina. You are also a denizen of somewhere near Simpsonville. I'm a denizen of Greenville. That's my address. Some of you might have Malden addresses. Some of you might have Simpsonville, Greenville. Maybe some even come as far as Easley or Powdersville. That's where Mrs. Welkner lives. But if you are a denizen of an area, it basically means you are a citizen of that area. We are all denizens of the United States as well. Our next word is blight. We have another noun here. Bigoted people are a blight on a civilized society. Well, you have to know what a bigot is in order to figure out what this means. And hopefully you know what this means already. It's something negative. A bigot is somebody who is prejudiced. They think that their race is supreme, that it's better than any other race in the world. And so if somebody is a bigot, and the sentence here says it's a blight on a civilized society. Okay, again, it's going to be negative, because when you live in a civilized society, hopefully people are going to be treated in a civil manner, and racism is not civil behavior. So a blight is anything that destroys, prevents growth, or causes devaluation. Synonyms would be affliction or disease. The opposite would be enhancement. If you enhance something, you make it better. So in this sentence, we're using it again with racism, and we're talking about how it makes society less valuable because people are not treating each other the right way. The other context where blight is used frequently is having to do with agriculture. So I put a picture here of a plant, and we see this leaf that has some kind of disease to it. We see the brown spots. The leaf is not going to last too long. There is a blight on it. So the leaf is dying. The plant is dying. So its value is going down. Our next word is gratify. We have a verb here this time. Evita is doing something. She's gratifying her gym teacher by climbing the rope up to the ceiling without using her legs. I don't know quite how she would do that, but nevertheless, her gym teacher is gratified when she does this. You gratify your parents, I'm sure, if you do well in school, if you do well in your athletics, if you obey them, you gratify them. So when you gratify someone, you are pleasing them, you're making them happy. As a teacher, I'm going to be gratified when I know that my students are working their hardest, that they are doing everything they can to comprehend the material and to take ownership of their own education. That gratifies me. I'm satisfied. Okay, indulge is another synonym. The opposite is displease or disappoint. So the picture I put here is of a graded test. It's like a Scantron sheet, and this person received an A+. So they themselves will be gratified that they did so well on the test. Their parents will be gratified. Their teacher will be gratified or pleased. Our next word is elude. We've got another verb here. Construction workers posted a warning sign about the fresh cement, but it eluded the clueless pedestrian who stepped right into the new sidewalk and ruined it. So we've got a new sidewalk being created, and this person is walking down the street, but they're not paying attention. They're probably on their phone, texting in another world, and then they step right into the wet cement. They the warning sign eluded them. They didn't take notice of it. It escaped their notice. It's to get away from. This synonyms would be avoid, evade, or lose. The opposite would be attract. So the picture I put is another way that we often see the word elude used. This is a picture taken from some type of footage from a news station, and we've got a criminal trying to elude the police. It looks like the police have been chasing him or her. It's hard to tell. I think it's a male. And he has pulled his van over to the side of the highway, and now he's trying to climb down and elude or escape, avoid the notice of the police to get away from them. Gambit is our next word. This is a noun. In chess, a gambit occurs when a player tries to gain a strategic advantage over an opponent by sacrificing a pawn. Strategic, that adjective is going to be your context clue strategy to figure out what this means. I am not a chess player. Maybe some of you are and you already know what this means. Gambit can be used in other contexts as well, though. Let me give you the definition. A gambit is a maneuver or action used to gain an advantage. So oftentimes military leaders will take gambits in battle. It's a strategy, a ploy, or a maneuver. The opposite is a blunder. A blunder is a mistake. So I am more of a football person. I love football. I've always loved it. So I'm using the flea flicker play as an example of a gambit that is used oftentimes by offenses. So if you don't know what a flea flicker is, it's when the offense tries to fake out the defense to what their play is. So the quarterback would hand off the ball to the running back, and the running back would run a few steps, but then would throw the ball back to the quarterback, who would then throw it to a receiver down the field. So that's a gambit that an offense would take, a maneuver, a ploy to outwit the defense and get some yardage. Our next word is obsequy. You probably haven't heard of this before, but it's actually a pretty simple definition used for something that happens, unfortunately, frequently in life. He was the chief mourner at his friend's obsequy. So mourner is your context clue. If you're mourning someone, you're sad because they have, in most cases, at least in this context, they have died. So an obsequy is a fancy word for a funeral rite or ceremony. So here's a picture of loved ones gathered around a coffin at their loved one's obsequy or funeral. Our next word is entice. We've got a verb here. Big splashy ads entice gullible readers into making unwise purchases. If you are gullible, you are naive. You're kind of clueless, so to speak, and so you're going to be enticed to buy things that you probably shouldn't buy. And advertisers know that. If they put these big flashy ads, they're going to entice a lot of people. Even think about commercials. Sometimes you might, maybe at night, you see a commercial for Burger King or something like that, although commercials are kind of becoming outdated with all the streaming that we do. But anyways, you might be enticed to actually get in your car and go get a burger after seeing a commercial. You're enticed by their ad. So, entice is when you attract by offering reward or pleasure. You're tempting someone, you're luring them. The opposite would be discourage. So I put a picture of chocolate chip cookies because whenever chocolate chip cookies are made at my house, either by me or my daughter, I am enticed to eat them. There is no way I can pass those up. So entice. The pleasure of eating the cookie is too good to pass up. All right, our next word is fallow. The farmer plows a fallow field. It's modifying field. It's telling us something more specific about field, so that tells us it's an adjective. But, so we have the opposite context clue strategy, leaves it unseeded, that's your clue, during the growing season. So they plow it, but they're not actually going to plant anything because maybe they want the field to recover. So if something is fallow, it's inactive, it's unproductive, it's idle or barren. The opposite would be fertile or productive. So oftentimes, most of the time, it actually is used dealing with agricultural situations, but we can also talk about our minds being fallow. If I accuse you of having a fallow mind, that is not a compliment because I'm saying that you're inactive, you're idle, you're not thinking, you can't produce any ideas. So hopefully that's not the case of anyone in ninth grade. Here's a picture of fallow in its usual context. We've got a field that is barren. Nothing is being planted in it. It's being left empty for the season to hopefully regain its nutrients and maybe produce a better crop the next growing season. Our next word is fealty. An uncritical fealty to a dictator has led many citizens into tragic decisions. All right, citizens is your clue there. Fealty is a noun, and it means obligated loyalty or faithfulness. Okay, we as Americans show fealty to our country. Most importantly, we as Christians show fealty or faithfulness to God. And we're oftentimes, many times, imperfect with our fealty, but obviously God is always faithful to us. His fealty to us never breaks. Devotion, fidelity, okay, taken from the Latin fidelis, always faithful, Marine Corps motto. Semper Fidelis. Allegiance, the opposite would be disloyalty or treachery. Benedict Arnold, Revolutionary War, broke his fealty to the revolutionaries as he gave information to the British officers. So here's a picture of our American flag, fireworks, probably a 4th of July picture, and we're just showing fealty as citizens to our country here with our patriotism. Our next word is laggard. And in this sentence, we have a word that we've already had this year. So hopefully you remember what dally means. Dally means to waste time and to loiter and to be very slow about things. So that's going to tell you what a laggard is. A laggard is a noun. And it says here, laggards always dally. So if you are a laggard, you are a slow person, especially one who falls behind. Think about somebody who's always last in line, maybe out at PE, the last person to finish the mile, somebody who's a straggler. A lot of times there are certain students who are laggards to class. They're always late. They get those tardies. Dawdler, they're dawdling out in the hallway, talking with their friends, and then their grade ends up getting reduced because of our tardy policy. The opposite would be somebody who is a leader. They're always at the front, they're taking charge, they've got their act together. So here's a picture here. It says, always end up last in the queue. Queue is a British word for line, and that's actually going to be one of our words later this year. Trail and everything, you are a laggard. So here we have a picture. We've got a group of people, and then the person in red is the laggard because he or she is always behind the group. So this is our last word for lesson 4. Make sure to put your honor pledge on exercise 1 that you watched this video.